It's Boneyard Bill. Okay, so hi and welcome. I didn't realize I had this guy. So anyway, I got my Excalibur crossbow here. I'm going to be getting it ready for a new series coming up called Elite Crossbow Sniper. I think you guys will enjoy that. But while I'm kind of doing this poor thing's full of dust and dirty. So in Ukraine, whatever Yulia, I guess it's Yulia Tymoshenko, the girl with the braided kind of hair there, that was in jail and stuff like that for embezzling and doing all kinds of stuff like that. That's now in charge, kind of not in charge with Ukraine, but kind of with Yanukovych. That guy's such a whack job. I feel so bad for the Ukrainian people when they have like psychopaths and idiots in charge like that. It's kind of the standard norm everywhere in the world. Idiots in charge everywhere. There's don't go near them. It may be infectious. Jeez. So anyway, bottom line short, there's a phone call that comes up, and this phone call is basically her and I forget who the other guy is, talking about how upset they are that everybody kind of went around. And she brings out, kind of stuff like, I want to get a machine gun and I want to kill Putin and start time to get guns and start killing Russians. And it's pretty propagandish, if you ask me. Like, what I wonder about, and it's just the same thing with all these leaked documents and phone calls and stuff. Why is it out there? Like, who leaked this? How did they get a hold of this phone call? You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing, and it's always an anonymous source, and that's what bugs me, because you don't know if this is propaganda or if it's a real thing. Well, hypothetically, give the benefit of the doubt. Say this lady was actually saying that. Well, what does that tell you? What's going to happen to the Ukrainian people in the short term? Well, it looks like they're going to have a civil war. So when you got leaders that can't wait to blow away the other side, it's just definitely not good. Now, maybe some people are for it, maybe some people are against it. That's not really the question here. The question is why does this exist? Why is it that we're privy to hear those phone calls? Who leaked it? Now, considering it was on Russia Today, you have to understand, and it kind of goes back to what I've been saying right from the get-go, that the Russians counter-couped, and there is rumors that she is actually kind of controlled opposition, that she's actually in favor of Putin. She could be just putting on a show. You never know. Like, you never know. Again, if it's legit, it's not good. If it's if it's a counter coup, if it's the controlled opposition, because what's the effect here? Well, it makes the EU, the IMF, and the US look bad, because these are the people they back, right? So it's a thumb in the eye, thumb in the eye. I've never done that to anybody. I'm just gonna walk up to somebody around. Hey, how you doing? Thumb in the eye. I'll probably get punched in the face for doing it, but then I could cross it off my list of things I've done, right? So, long story short, who knows what to expect anything at this point. These people are just completely insane. All of them. Like, there's no good guys here. There's just no good guys here at all. And that's the sad part, Scope caps, almost. Really makes a big difference in keeping your lens clean. So anyway, bottom line, at the end of the day, what are we stuck with? Well, we're stuck with a country that has no money, stuck with a country that's basically been invaded by another country, with basically 60% of the military defecting to the other side. And I can imagine if that much of the military is defecting to the other side, there's probably going to be a lot of Ukrainians that will probably, because they're pretty much an intertwined culturally between Russians and Ukrainians. They're pretty much the same. They speak each other's language. They all that stuff. So there's you can. Even though there is differences, and there's definitely a lot of them are at odds with each other, at the end of the day, it's really the same people. Although some might not like to hear that, but it's true. The same people. It's kind of like India and Pakistan border. To me, yeah, there's a lot of fighting that goes on at that border, but at the end of the day, to me, they are kind of technically the same people. you know, there's really not that much difference between one and the next. You know, it's just they have different belief systems that makes them kill each other. Fair enough. But anyway, with that said, I think at the end of the day, oh hey, I got to fix this here. That was maybe on that one. I think at the end of the day, what we're going to see with these kind of staged events, like to me, what gets me is that this is not a cameraman running saying, "Oh, look what I found! Look what I found!" This is they're already there. You know, now you never know because I mean, RT could be following these people around, but I just see this as the part that you know that Putin counter-couped, and I see it as propaganda. But it's just the way I see it. Can't prove it. Just a theory. You can call it conspiracy, sure, but it makes total sense because of the effect it has. If these neo-Nazis, and some people say, what neo-Nazis? it's Sadova Party is basically, I think the translation is Freedom Party, but those guys they're neo-Nazis, and they're also not just neo-Nazis as in they've adopted the ideology. They're neo-Nazis in the sense that many of them actually share bloodlines to the actual Nazis. So I guess technically that would kind of make them German in a way. But you have to understand, back in the 1940s, the Ukrainians, you know, they joined with, you know, they kind of supported Hitler just to get away from Russia, and you know, not realizing what they were getting into. And from that, of course, you had, you know, some spawn came out, and now their kin is still kicking around, and they created a Nazi party. I guess that's the simplest way you could put it. Is it's like, what do you want to do? Let's create a Nazi party. And when the coup took place, these are 150 grand. When the coup took place, what you saw was basically these guys. I have a feeling some of them are controlled opposition, just because it makes sense of what you're seeing now. You know, right now, like everything these guys do works out into Putin's favor in the sense of they make the Americans look bad. That's for Putin. I mean, that guy's not a good guy at all. You know, there are no good guys in this. But one thing that makes Putin giggle like a little schoolgirl is basically when he sees egg on the face of you know, the West, and in particular, not so much Europe. Like, I mean, obviously the Russians are distrusting of Europe, you know, because of the invasions in the past. Russia's done the same. So again, there's no good guys here. My uncle used to have a good saying: "It took a lot of countries to make that country," and it looks like Russia's doing it again. So I don't know how to do that fuel things, but anyway. So at the end of the day, what you're stuck with is basically I'm missing a bolt here. At the end of the day, what you get is you have all these people that want to change, and hey, it's badass. Want to change, and less corruption, and they got like 6 times the corruption coming at them, and 25 times the instability, and their pensions already being raided. You can't make this stuff up. It's like they're already robbing they've already robbed the, not going to, they already are robbing the Ukrainians blind. The IMF is already, talking about introducing the austerity, and they haven't even given them any money yet. So yeah, we're going to cut pensions, we're going to cut jobs, we're going to, and we've seen how this worked out. I mean, Spain is in its 6th year of depression. They have like 54% unemployment with the youth. So if that's what the EU has to offer, I think what's happening is, and a lot of people ask me, where do I get my info? Sometimes you just got to follow the people that are there, and there's nothing more eye-opening than the actual citizenry. And because everything you get from RT is obviously going to be pro-Russia, right? They're trying to make Russia look good. Everything you're getting from the West is trying to make Russia look bad. But at the end of the day, both are bad. So far, even though, yes, there is a bit of a bias, the best coverage I've seen is Vice. So far, I got to put my hats off to Vice. Now, yes, you've got a Jewish guy that's there, kind of making, basically speaking out against the Russians, but not the Nazis, which is really bizarre. You think the first thing he'd be talking about, Kiev would be all these neo-Nazis running around that are kind of taking power, even though what's called Victoria Nuland's leaked phone call, which I still wonder about that one as well. Because at the end of the day, I think what this might have been is just a gold heist. That totally makes sense. There was probably never, they're like, okay, because think about it economically. Well, okay, I'll get back to that in a second, but to finish up what I was saying is like, okay, so you have her saying, we're going to put these people in power and these people, and the rest of them can just stand on the side until the elections happen. Okay, so fair enough. Why didn't they just wait till the elections happen and promote their guy? They didn't. They just, basically did a coup. So the power vacuum that creates is obviously there is these neo-Nazis that are legitimate in their cause in the sense of, this is my party, this is what stands for, stuff like that. But it's manipulated in the sense that these guys like the provocateurs, which are probably paid by Russians by now, because these guys, they cater to money. They don't cater to principle, you know what I mean? Now, the odd guy might, but you look at jihadists, you look at cartels of any type, if you look at any sort of radical movement, whether it be terrorist organizations, at the end of the day, the upper guys, it's about the money for them. So you'll get like your Bin Laden types, for example, and they'll brainwash a bunch of kids to follow an ideology, but at the end of the day, they're just doing the dirty work for them. And at the end of the day, they get stinking rich. Now, these neo-Nazis that are, really kind of climbing up in the ranks, so to speak, that are, demanding this, demanding that, and threatening to shoot people in the face if they don't, get their way, and beating people up, and, in front of the cameras and everything. To me, I'd say just the idea that the cameramen are lucky enough to catch all this on tape, or video, so to speak, I don't know, it's just a bit suspicious for me. I mean, again, and if it's legit, well, then it's even worse, because that means the rest of the Ukrainian people that just wanted better jobs, better healthcare, better opportunities for their kids, and that's the majority of the people. Now they're caught in a rock and a hard place, between two rocks and a hard place, there's no easy way out for them. So they go with the Russians, they suffer more. They stay with the EU, they're going to suffer even more. If they let the neo-Nazis kick everybody out, well, then they're under neo-Nazi rule, which nobody wants to be under that. Even the neo-Nazis don't want to be under neo-Nazi rule. A bunch of whack jobs. So to me, there's a lot of suspicion here what's going on, because I think Putin, he's going to take the whole area eventually, but he's going to do it through subversion. He's going to, problem, reaction, solution, get the people to demand it, demand that they want to become part of Russia. Well, the subversion program worked perfectly in Crimea. There was, a lot of very pro-Russian people there, because they're, basically they were Russian. So you had that kind of little edge there to begin with. So it didn't take much of a nudge. And then all you had to do is post up no fascist, no neo-Nazi signs all over the place. Next thing you know, everybody's, I don't want to be under neo-Nazi rule. Again, not to beat up on German people, but after, Hitler, a lot of people like in Europe, you do have a lot of people that still support that, but there's a lot of people like, no way, they survived that once, they're not going to do that again, because they know what it leads to. So it's an easy sell. Say, okay, well, we'll offer you citizenship, money, and better wages. Just renounce, those guys. So it was an easy win for Crimea. Now, getting past Crimea, that's going to be hard. That's going to be a subversion program that's going to have to be carried out through austerity. So really, Putin doesn't have to do a lot of planning here, because the IMF and the EU have already done everything to basically deter people from wanting to get into the European Union, in the sense of that they're going to suffer. And there are people out there that argue, say, okay, yeah, but they're willing to suffer rather than go with Russia. That's true, but the majority of people being what they are, will submit to the path of least resistance. And if the path of least resistance is bribery, in the short term, they'll probably take it. That's just humankind. It has nothing to do with history or anything like that. It's just mankind. If you have a government that caters to you for a little bit, you'll vote them in. And then right after that, they'll do whatever they want to you, such as humanity. Let's say a guy comes along and says, there's going to hope and change, I'm going to end all the wars, I'm going to give free health care to everybody, and if you have a doctor, you can keep it. Everybody's going to have a free education. Don't matter. We're going to drop the borders. We're going to get rid of all the wars, and we're going to bring people home. We're going to balance the budget. We're going to do that, and I'm going to give you hope and change. And The only promise that he'll keep will be, by the time I'm done my terms, you will not recognize this country. And at that point, yeah, you vote for the guy. But when the only promise he kept was, you're not going to recognize the country, well, I think we know what we're talking about here, Obama, right? So, yeah, so, he wooed the people not once but twice. Obviously, I mean, there are talks of a third term for Obama. I don't think it's going to happen. He's just too unpopular now. But some people in American, in the States say you have to only allow to serve 2 terms. Yeah, but they are talking about removing that law through the executive branch. He's a dictator. He's a dictator. He's a dictator, but he's a puppet as well. Now, with all this stuff coming out, again, I'm suspicious of anything. Right now, it's Putin just kind of keeping the thumb in the eye of the EU and stuff like that. And you have George Soros coming out the other day talking about how Putin's actions could dismantle the EU. Which, I mean, that's going to happen people are going to demand that by themselves anyway. Why? Okay, Greece, super high unemployment. Spain, 6 years of a depression, high unemployment. Italy, biggest bread lines they've had. People are eating out of dumpsters right now. It's the biggest bread lines they've had since the end of World War II. Okay, just put that in a magnitude of scale of World War II. I mean, my grandfather fought in Artona and Sicily and all that place, and trust me, there was nothing left when he came back. Like, I mean, when basically it was just a pile of rubble when they left. I mean, said they fought through the walls. It was just brutal. My grandpa told one story where he was there for a couple of days, and they were really, really, really hungry. They found a thing of apples, and he got an apple, and he saw a kid, and of course, having 7 kids eventually of his own. Well, of course, he couldn't just eat the apple, so he gave it to the kid. So, I mean, that's the starvation. Like, it was like that everywhere. There was orphans everywhere. People are starving. Okay, now if people were starving that bad at the end of the war, okay, and how big were the bread lines? The magnitude must have been, ridiculous. And now it's worse than that. How is that possible? And yet the structures are still standing. Like, at this point, what's the excuse? Again, if people in Ukraine see that, they're like, okay, well, we were already that bad to begin with, and now they're going to take more from us. Well, of course, Russia's going to, they'll bribe them over. It's a lot of people say, no, they won't know. Yeah, I mean, you'll have your hardcore fascists and your very patriotic Ukrainians, and trust me, there are very patriotic Ukrainians. One thing I'll get back to the Vice guys is they're in Crimea, okay? So they're in basically arguably enemy territory to the west, okay? To the EU. And the people there, okay, yeah, they're very pro-Russian and stuff like that. And yeah, there's a little bit of, some of these bases are taken over by force, but not brute force. It's mostly mobs that are going in and, beating people up and kicking them out. The rest are just peacefully surrendering. And one of the things that happened is, when they were lowering the Ukrainian flag on the base, that had to be heart-wrenching for those soldiers sitting there, have to watch their flag come down and see another nation's flag go up. And it's like, you fell asleep in Ukraine, you woke up in Russia, you know what I mean? So anyway, some of them started singing the Ukrainian national anthem as the Russian flag was being hoisted above the bases. So, I mean, obviously you have patriots there, but at the point where that was their protest, they weren't shooting at each other. So, it's kind of one of those, and there's a lot of guys, and again, this is kind of the manipulation that Putin's going to do, is basically you got some of these military guys, well, they're going to be able to keep the rank and everything like that, they're just going to basically switch sides. This is nothing new in history. I mean, coups, that's how a coup takes out. The only thing that's odd about this coup is that the lack of bloodshed. Other than the Maidan Square, that's where the most bloodshed was. And again, I still stick with my theory. What happened there? It seems to be proven right. Nothing's ever 100%. I mean, unless you're there, you can't say for sure, right? Now, the people in the western part of Ukraine, again, they've been robbed blind. The FBI showed up with the CIA. They started loading up to 40 boxes. There's more than one source saying this, and these are fairly credible news sources, not just like InfoWars and stuff like that. And basically what I'm thinking is that was the plan all along, because the Americans have been stealing people's gold like crazy. After World War II, all these countries that left gold in the United States basically for safekeeping. Well, they can't get their gold back. Germany's one of them, and like nobody can go see if the gold is even there. So what's probably most likely happened is there's no gold left, and in order to pay off the creditors, the blackmail is you get us our gold, or we tell everybody you're a sham, and that would just destroy consumer confidence overnight, so to speak, in the dollar, and that would be devastating. So, Plan B: go steal people's gold, and so you prop up a puppet that you don't want. You leak it out as if you did the coup, so that everybody, okay, there's nobody on the planet here, even in Ukraine, would look at you in the eye and say, no, this wasn't a coup. So everybody knows it's a coup, okay? But I think what they're waiting for is people to react to it, to say, oh, no, that's a coup, you get out of there right now. But it doesn't matter. Why? Because they've already taken about 60% of the gold. So even if they don't get the resources, even if they don't get all this other stuff, now they probably were expecting to get all that stuff, but it doesn't matter. The important thing is they basically took the gold. And is it 100% confirmed? No, but there just seems to be an awful lot of evidence that's pointing that way. And what would be the smoke screen to get out of there? We'll have a small-scale clash go on, a small-scale civil war. While people are occupied with that, these people, nobody's realizing that, they just have their gold still, the important thing, their economy has just been completely destroyed. And nothing to back it with, so they can't build up from, they can build up from the ground up again, but it's going to be impossible to do it in the short term because they have nothing to back a new currency with. So, with that said, again, the smoke screen, get a small-scale civil war going while people are distracted on that. It goes the gold. I mean, they took Gaddafi's gold, they took Saddam's gold. They apparently somebody, I don't know. Again, you have to fact check to see if this is true, but. China's gold, there was a lot of gold that China had in the World Trade Centers. And I'm sure a lot of people had gold in there. Also, too, there was, what's called Building 7 is still the big one for me, just because of who was in there, this, the CIA and stuff like that, and they were investigating, major banking corporations. So, yeah. And I guess that's when things were supposed to, be like they are now. But I guess because they got away with it, it prolonged until 2008. In 2008, what happened? Well, the crash was diverted to Europe. That's why the Europeans are suffering now, because basically billions of treasuries were bought in exchange from the euro. Basically, the European Union bought U.S. debt so that the United States wouldn't collapse. And that's the simplest way I could put it. There's some people, no, this stuff doesn't make it into the public easily. You get whistleblowers here and there that say, no, this is what we did, this is what, And then you've got those, Jamie Dimon type psychopaths and George Soros's and Warren Buffett's. What did Warren Buffett do? Well, he's basically, tells you, oh no, have confidence in the dollar, have confidence in the dollar. But he's basically got out of treasuries, bought gold, and basically rail systems and basically hard assets. So when it collapses, it doesn't matter. He wins either way. I mean, war is very profitable if you prop up both sides. You know what I mean? You can't lose. So if you're losing on one side, you spend a little more on the other. You know what I mean? And then it balances out. So that's how these douchebags do it. So again, getting back to the original topic of the video, this lady's phone call. Again, in front of cameras, or not in front of cameras, but who leaks this stuff? I think whistleblowers need to take it. If they're a true whistleblower, they need to use. I mean, you have to understand, Edward Snowden, I still think was a double agent. I think he was a spy. A sleeper plan right from the beginning. It's just too, I mean, of all countries that you go to for safety and freedom, Russia, I think there was a couple of South American countries that were taking him in. But I think it's because he knows he could be safe in Russia because, the CIA agents, are not going to be going into Russia to snatch anybody. That would be a suicide mission. Especially like the intelligence Putin has may not be quite as good as what the Americans have, but he still is. He's up on the game because once you know who the players are, you can get a good idea of what their character's going to be and what they're going to do. So, but anyway, I guess I'm going to leave that about that. It's just more interesting to, why is all this propaganda out there? Is it just the smokescreen, so you're focusing on that, not the fact that, basically they had all their resources stolen from particularly gold? Again, this all comes back to banksters, and maybe parts of it was a fail. I think a lot of it was a fail, because they weren't expecting Putin to stand up for himself. Because Putin just basically did the put up or shut up kind of thumb in the eye to the EU. So again, I think by the end of this, because I think it will go completely awry on the EU and the IMF and all that, I don't see these people getting out of this one in the long term alive, because bankers are already dropping dead. You could say some are suicides, but nobody can shoot themselves in the back of the head 9 times with a nail gun and then have a squirrel take away the nail gun so you can't find the evidence. No, that doesn't happen. And then of course, when it's all J.P. Morgan, pretty much all J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs people that are knocking themselves off. You have over 14 or 16 people in the past 8 months, and in the past month you've had about 12 people alone. So something big is brewing. So I think mission failures, kind of like the SS, whenever they, if you failed your mission, you either took the cyanide pill or grabbed your little Walter and, did what you had to do, or faced the firing squad, So anyway, mind you, no one would miss most of these bankers. But I think something big is coming, because all the financial stuff is really leading. It's what the elites are doing. They're saying, no, buy treasuries and all that, but you have your source guys. These guys are buying gold, and you have to understand the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, all them guys. They hate gold because it's basically, when people have gold, they can get around the monopoly of the dollar. You know what I mean? And you have to understand, again, I started recently saying this, and it's something that I believe to be 100% true, that money is not wealth. It is just a medium of exchange. So until people start realizing that, you could, anything you put faith in is currency. You know what I mean? And that's the big illusion. And you can say, okay, well, we'll trade in these for the rest of your life. Okay, fine. Then that's the new currency. So anyway, I'm babbling now. So anyway, rate, subscribe, share, comment, like, and beware of Boneyard Bill. It's Boneyard Bill. Okay, so hi and welcome. I didn't realize I had this guy. So anyway, I got my Excalibur crossbow here. I'm going to be getting it ready for a new series coming up called Elite Crossbow Sniper. I think you guys will enjoy that. But while I'm kind of doing this poor thing's full of dust and dirty. So in Ukraine, whatever, Yulia, I guess it's Yulia Tymoshenko, the girl with the braided kind of hair there, that was in jail and stuff like that for embezzling and doing all kinds of stuff like that. That's now in charge, kind of not in charge with Ukraine, but kind of with Yanukovych. That guy's such a whack job. I feel so bad for the Ukrainian people when they have like psychopaths and idiots in charge like that. It's kind of the standard norm everywhere in the world. Idiots in charge everywhere. There's don't go near them. It may be infectious. Jeez. So anyway, bottom line short, there's a phone call that comes up, and this phone call is basically her and I forget who the other guy is, talking about how upset they are that everybody kind of went around. And she brings out, kind of stuff like, okay, I want to get a machine gun and I want to kill Putin and start time to get guns and start killing Russians. And it's pretty propagandish, if you ask me. What I wonder about, and it's just the same thing with all these leaked documents and phone calls and stuff. Why is it out there? Who leaked this? How did they get a hold of this phone call? You know what I mean? That's the thing, and it's always an anonymous source, and that's what bugs me, because you don't know if this is propaganda or if it's a real thing. Well, hypothetically, give the benefit of the doubt. Say this lady was actually saying that. Well, what does that tell you? What's going to happen to the Ukrainian people in the short term? Well, it looks like they're going to have a civil war. So when you got leaders that can't wait to blow away the other side, it's just definitely not good. Now, maybe some people are for it, maybe some people are against it. That's not really the question here. The question is why does this exist? Why is it that we're privy to hear those phone calls? Who leaked it? Now, considering it was on Russia Today, you have to understand, and it kind of goes back to what I've been saying right from the get-go, that the Russians counter-couped, and there is rumors that she is actually kind of controlled opposition, that she's actually in favor of Putin. She could be just putting on a show. You never know. You never know. Again, if it's legit, it's not good. If it's if it's a counter coup, if it's the controlled opposition, because what's the effect here? Well, it makes the EU, the IMF, and the U.S. look bad because these are the people they back, right? So, it's a thumb in the eye, like thumb in the eye. I never done that to anybody. I'm gonna have to do. I'm just gonna walk up to somebody around. Hey, how you doing? Thumb in the eye. I'll probably get punched in the face for doing it, but then I could cross it off my list of things I've done, right? So, long story short, who knows what to expect anything at this point. These people are just completely insane. All of them. Like, there's no good guys here. There's just no good guys here at all. And that's the sad part, Scope caps, almost. Really makes a big difference in, keeping your lens clean. So anyway,